It's funny that hundreds of years ago, people tried to make things as perfect as possible. I always joke now that people pay me a lot of money to beat up a piece of steel and make it all mangled and stuff like that. Because that is the, inherent beauty. You want to see something that was handmade. You want to see those imperfections and anomalies. My name is Robb Martin. I am the owner of Thack Ironworks, and it's been a business that I've had for about 32 years. As a kid and as a teenager, I was always a misfit and a bit of a loner, and the stuff I was into wasn't pop culture. Like being in that heavy metal was certainly not the culture or the vibe around here. And then I was into fantasy novels and what's called heroic fiction and stuff like that. So when I was a teenager, I realized all the cool stuff that I was into, the armor and weapons, and from the books that I read and the music that I listened to, everything seemed to point towards metal. When I figured out blacksmiths were the guys that made the armor, weapons, and the stuff from history and the artistic things that I liked, then I realized that's what I wanted to be. It was a blacksmith. Fantasy was my gateway drug, but then I started studying real history. And even as a little kid, I was into history and I was into art. But as I studied history, and then as I got more interested in art and studied it at its various stages and cultures and things like that, all of these things inspired me, and it just kept sucking me in deeper and deeper. Back when I was just starting out as a teenager, everybody was fixated on the horseshoes. That, a blacksmith, all they made was horseshoes. So you had to have that stupid argument, 1,000 times. Now everybody comes to me and they just want to talk about blades. They think that blacksmiths only make blades because they've seen it on Forged in Fire. But that, that's a definite improvement. At this point in my business, one of our big bread and butter products is range hoods. Like we do copper or brass or pewter range hoods, usually very traditional looking, and a lot of texture and rivets and then that sort of thing, which to me really draws from my armor background and skills like that. As well, I do a lot of, say, wine cellar door hardware. That's where I can do some really kind of kooky, so people will get whimsical on their wine cellar door. If the rest of their house could be quite formal, but that will be a place where they, a little bit of fantasy room there. So I do a lot of stuff like that, but I just do a lot of railings and gates. They've been mainstays right from day one, where it's just a typical iron product that is needed and people are willing to pay for. When I'm starting a project, it varies really depending what it is, but usually start sketching and try to just come up with a very crude concept. And when I sketch, I like to sketch very quickly, and I'm really just trying to capture a mood, just get some little essence. And once I've got that, then I will start forging out components. The actual organic process of building it, things present themselves that make for a better design. So if I have that wiggle room, usually I can come out with a better product there. So I will start making my components, putting them on, and they may change somewhat. Sometimes I'll do a piece, put it on there, and I'll realize that doesn't work, and I'll have to start over. Typically, it could just be tweaked a little bit, and then it will fit, and then oftentimes I'll get halfway through with those components, and then new whole design ideas start popping in, and then we just throw that in as we go. First step is heating up the steel. We do that in our coal forge here, and we're bringing it up to about 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. We can judge by color, so bringing it up to a yellow heat. In this case, I want to get a long heat, about 7 inches long, and I want it to be nice and consistent from one end to the other. I am making the shepherd's crook handle. So I start by doing a little bend, flip it around in the forks, and then bringing it around and creating that shepherd's crook shape. Typically, you've got less than a minute of working time really to do what you have to do. So that old adage about strike while the iron is hot is not just some pithy little saying, it's actual advice. I'm using the bending forks to do bend here. Forks are a very simple tool, but deceptively counterintuitive to actually use, and it takes a little bit of experience to figure out how to get them to the right leverage point. And now the twist. I don't know if that I really have a favorite step. It really varies. I suppose I do like the whole process, but not every time. I think my initial thing was I thought I could just make stuff and people would buy it. And I found that armor and weapons was something that I really tried to focus on early on, and just found it was really hard to get the money for it. And I was the early years, we were starving, like we were living paycheck to paycheck, and I had a wife at home and 2 kids and stuff. So like it was happening in real time. There was no plan B. So I had to make things work, whatever it took. I actually did, at one point I went and got a factory job, and I ended up working nights in a factory for 6 years while I was working, days here at the shop, and that was pretty rough times. I was working all the time basically, but it's what I had to do to get through those years. Then I was able to, once I had a paycheck that was keeping things alive, then I was able to concentrate on the business again. And then after 6 years, I took the plunge again, and then it was like immediately, oh no, there's no steady paycheck, and again, lean years and stuff like that. But I've just kind of slowly worked my way through it. So that, I think, was a really good thing. It got me to be able to push through. I couldn't be that artsy fartsy flaky type that I just don't feel inspired. I've got to bear down and make things happen. So you got to put food on the table, and that's good inspiration. You make something happen. So it's still an emotional roller coaster. It's like, oh no, the business is tanking. The economy has dropped out. This is the end. Like, no one's ever going to call me again. And then I always just have to sit down and say, wait a minute, I've been through this like 100 times, and it always, within a couple days, I'll have a couple of jobs coming, and then I'll be busy. A week later, I'll be so busy I don't know what I'm going to do. So. I just have to sometimes verbally tell myself just to calm down. It's all good. This will work. At some point, I'm looking forward to retirement. Retirement to me would not be stopping working. It would be doing less stuff for other people, more stuff for myself. So I will probably continue to work until I drop dead, in one form or another. And I probably will be always making stuff for money, but more and more to make stuff that I want to make. I should have seen it all, done it all, and it should be getting kind of old, but it's not. It's still, I just feel like I'm scratching the surface. And like I said, every time I design something, it leads to 5 other things, and it's like it's this never-ending chase that I can never, I will never capture that thing. It's something that I think is just going to keep me inspired my entire life. And if I was a billionaire suddenly, I would be making stuff regardless. So that passion is as strong or stronger than when I started. I know I'm here to make stuff, and that satisfies every inkling of my spiritual needs. Like I got stuff to do. I've got, I got a reason to be, and that is a powerful thing. So there's no issue with me running out of steam or running out of inspiration.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. Try to catch me howling at the moon.